If you're studying 3 to 4 hours a day, you might actually be learning slower than someone studying 45 minutes. Not because you're lazy, not because you're dumb, but because your method is quietly wasting most of your effort. Here's the part no one tells you. Most students need 3 to 4 full passes to remember something. Top students compress that into one focused session. Same topic, same brain, different method. And once you see what they're doing differently, you'll realize why studying has felt so slow this whole time. Let's fix one belief first. You're not slow. You've just been trained to study in a way that feels productive, but isn't. Here's what most study sessions look like. You open your notes, start reading, highlight a few lines, maybe you rewatch a lecture, and after an hour it feels like you did something. But try this. Close the book. Now explain the topic. Suddenly, your mind goes blank. That's the gap. And this is where most students get stuck in a loop. They don't fully understand, so they go back and reread. It feels clearer the second time, but it still doesn't stick. So they repeat it again, and again, and again. This is why it takes 3 to 4 hours to learn something that could have been learned in one. Not because you need more time, but because your method is forcing you into multiple weak passes instead of one strong one. If studying feels long and draining, there are usually 3 hidden behaviors behind it. And I want you to actually check yourself here because chances are you're doing at least one of these right now. 1. Passive input, the comfort trap. This is the biggest one. Reading, highlighting, watching, it feels smooth, easy, low effort. But that's exactly the problem, because your brain is not being forced to work. It's just recognizing information. And recognition creates a dangerous illusion. I know this, until you try to use it and realize you don't. Quick example, you read a biology chapter twice. Looks familiar, feels clear, but in the exam, you can't recall the steps. Why? Because you trained your brain to recognize, not retrieve. No clear target. The drift problem. Most students sit down and think, I'll just study for 2 hours. But that's not a target, that's just time. So what happens? You drift, you switch between topics, you spend too long on easy parts, you avoid the difficult sections. Now compare that to this. I will solve 15 questions without looking. That forces focus, that creates direction, and direction is what makes studying feel fast instead of endless. Micro distractions, the hidden reset. This one feels harmless. You check your phone for 10 seconds, reply to a message, switch tabs quickly, but every time you do that, your brain resets. And here's what most people don't realize. The cost is not the distraction, it's the time it takes to get back into focus. So your 1-hour study session becomes 10 minutes focused, 30 seconds distraction, 3 minutes to refocus. Repeat it over and over, and suddenly you're moving at half speed without even noticing. Now here's the shift that separates top students from everyone else. Most students optimize for how long did I study? Top students optimize for how much did I retain per minute? That one change flips everything, because now it's not about sitting longer, it's about making each minute do more work. And this is where they do something most students avoid. They make studying slightly uncomfortable on purpose. Let me show you what I mean. 2 students study the same topic. Student A reads the chapter twice, highlights important lines, feels confident. Student B reads once, closes the book, tries to recall everything, gets stuck, forgets, struggles. Now here's the twist. Student A feels better, student B performs better. Because learning doesn't happen when you see the answer. It happens when you try and fail to recall it. That moment of struggle, that's where your brain says, this matters, strengthen this. And that's why this method is faster, because instead of needing 3 to 4 repetitions, you create strong memory in fewer passes. That's where the 9 times faster idea actually comes from. Less rereading, fewer repetitions, stronger retention per session. Not magic, just better mechanics. So now the real question is, how do you actually study like this without it feeling chaotic or exhausting? Because if you just try to study actively randomly, you'll burn out even faster. And this is where top students have a huge advantage. They don't rely on willpower. They follow a simple structure that keeps them fast and prevents burnout at the same time. And once you start using this, you'll notice something strange. You're studying less, but getting more done. So here's a system top students rely on, not because it's fancy, but because it removes the exact bottlenecks that make studying slow. 3 steps, and each one has a very specific job. Step 1, prime, 5 to 10 minutes. This is where most students already lose speed. They jump straight into the hardest part without context, so their brain spends the next 30 minutes just trying to figure out what is even going on. That confusion is what slows you down. So instead, you start like this. Scan the topic quickly, look at headings, diagrams, summaries, ask, what am I about to learn? And then set a clear output goal. Not study this chapter, but I should be able to explain this process step by step. Here's why this matters. When your brain knows what to look for, it filters information faster. So instead of processing everything, you only focus on what actually matters. That alone can cut your learning time almost in half. Step 2, active work, 30 to 50 minutes. This is where the real speed comes from, and this is where most students go wrong. They stay in input mode. but top students switch to output mode as quickly as possible. Let me show you the difference. Average student: read, 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 maybe test later. Top student: read a bit, immediately test, fix gaps, repeat. That loop is everything, because now you catch mistakes early. You don't build false confidence. You don't need multiple full revisions later. And here's a powerful rule: never spend more than a few minutes consuming without forcing output. That output can look like solving questions, explaining out loud, writing from memory, teaching an imaginary student. And yes, it feels harder, but that difficulty is doing something important. It's compressing what would have taken hours of repetition into one intense learning cycle. Step 3. Compress 10 minutes. This is the step that makes everything stick, and almost no one does it. After your session, you close everything. No notes, no help. And you ask, what can I actually recall right now? Not what looks familiar, not what you think you know, what you can produce. Then, write a quick summary. List key points. Identify exactly where you got stuck. Now here's the part most people miss. This step is not just revision, it's diagnosis. It shows you what's solid, what's weak, what needs attention next time. So instead of randomly revising everything again, you target only the gaps. That's how top students avoid wasting time. Now you might be thinking, this sounds more intense. Won't this burn me out faster? Actually, the opposite happens, because burnout doesn't come from effort, it comes from ineffective effort. Let's be real for a second. What's more exhausting, studying for 4 hours and still feeling behind, or studying for 2 hours and knowing you actually made progress? That second feeling, that sense of progress, that's what removes burnout. Because now you trust your method, you see results faster, and you stop second-guessing yourself. And one more thing, this system removes something that drains more energy than studying itself: decision fatigue. You're not constantly thinking, what should I do now? Should I reread this? Am I doing this right? You just follow the structure, and that simplicity makes studying feel lighter, even though it's more effective. So here's the shift I want you to take with you. Stop measuring your study by time, because time is misleading. You can sit for hours and still move slowly. Instead, measure this: how much did I actually retain in this session? Because that's what determines your results. Not effort, not time, retention. So next time you sit down to study, don't aim for long hours. Try this instead. Prime for 5 minutes, work actively for 40, compress for 10. One clean session, no distractions, no guessing, and watch what happens. Because once you experience this, you won't want to go back to studying the old way. The difference between average students and top students isn't how hard they work, it's how little of their effort they waste.